Low ball in, Harry Wilson. Yeah! Oh yes! Oh yeah! Across the face of goal, headed in. Yeah! What a wonderful goal from Harry Wilson. It's been coming. Off you go!
After the game, babies are made.
Hello and welcome to That's So Craven podcast, your one-stop shop for all things Fulham. Today we're talking about, can you just feel it in the voice? You're just more upbeat after a win. But today we're talking about Fulham versus Brighton, which was the game last night where high-flying Seagull came to the Craven Cottage. And there was different perspectives of what kind of Brighton would turn up, what kind of Fulham would turn up. We were kind of optimistic. But anyway, before we get into it, joining me tonight is Pod Daddy himself, who's had now it's a Friday night, so he's on the beers. It's Pod Daddy Elton. How are we doing, Elton?
I'm fine, thanks. I'm only just on the beers. It's only fairly early in the evening, but nevertheless, yes, I am exactly that. Nice to be here.
We're all friends. You could have 2, 3, 4. I don't think. I think if it was 11 p.m. on a Friday and I was about 6 beers deep, I think everyone would be like, "Yeah, fair enough. That's kind of understandable."
I've been with my grandchildren. I've got to be sensible.
10 then. And someone for professional reasons, we hope isn't 6 beers deep, but we wouldn't complain. Is Dave? Dave, how are we doing? You all right?
Yeah, my knees are a bit sore. I don't know if you noticed, I did a bit of a knee slide on Craven Cottage pitch last night after the third goal. No, I'm only joking, but God, what was that guy thinking? It was crazy, moment of madness, but well executed, I have to say. Really feeling great. As I said, it wasn't a great night. I missed the first goal. I was late, and my train was cancelled on the way home. But you know what? When Fulham win, who cares? I had a big smile on my face last night and I have a big smile on my face today. So all good.
Absolutely. And for legal reasons, I suppose we should say that we do not condone pitch invasions. We do think they're a waste of time, but sometimes they can be a little bit funny, which yesterday was kind of funny. It was the timing, wasn't it? But it was the timing of it. But hey, before all of that, obviously we have the That's So Craven Fulham Discord. Get in the Discord. Join the chat. We're going to keep talking about it. It's not going to go away. Therefore, you might as well join. And by the time we get to everyone, then maybe we'll stop promoting it. But, the first 30 seconds we'll always say, join the Discord, join the chat. There's some amazing stuff going on. And there may be some hidden gems, which I won't talk about, but you have to join to see. So join the Discord. And obviously, cravenpod.com, articles. We've got Blue Sky, we've got X, we got everything. So you know where to find us. You know where to find all the content. That's So Craven in a nutshell. But anyway, 3-1. Who predicted that? Let's be honest. Brighton, high-flying, 5th in the league. Didn't see that coming, surely. Oh, wait, there's one man with a really smug look on his face. Dave?
Well, for once, I got the prediction right. That's the first time this season. I did have a good feeling. We always beat Brighton. And we were playing well at Spurs on Sunday. And they had a bit of an off day at Southampton, I thought. And I thought there's a big opportunity here. I don't know why. I always felt a little bit confident that we'd get the points in this one. And we didn't disappoint. Did make it a little bit hard for ourselves in the first half. But second half, it all came good.
Yeah, absolutely. Elton, I can't tell if that's the Perth heat. For those who are listening back, Elton's there fluffing his shirt around. I don't know if that's the Perth heat or you may have spilled something down yourself.
I'm responding to my son following on the live stream, who says he reckons I've got a bit of fried rice left on my shirt after the Chinese we had tonight, which could be true, but I think he's taking the piss.
Could be. Well, we had an idea of the team lineups going into this game, but there was always one kind of niggle in the back of our minds, which was obviously Lukic suspended. We had Kearney suspended. Andreas can't walk back into the team for disciplinary reasons. Therefore, who started centre mid? And it seems like one thing we did actually get right. On a rare occasion, we do actually get things right, and we know what we're talking about on this podcast. But so Iwobi slotted in next to Berger. Wilson came in on the wing, and they kind of interchanged whether Iwobi sort of lingered out wide and Wilson came inside. I mean, Elton, was that something you expected, and is that something that you thought worked quite well for us in that sort of period of when Iwobi was central?
I think I shouldn't be surprised, because is there a place the man can't play? We used to talk about Bobby Decordova-Reid as our most incredible utility player, but I think Alex Iwobi's taken it to another level, isn't he? He really has. Okay, maybe not right back, but he can certainly play in a few very, very key positions, and I thought he took it in his stride last night. Absolutely rose to the occasion. Looked very happy to be doing a lot of heavy lifting in defence, where I normally think of him as actually a playmaker, carrying the ball forward and doing, a lot of dangerous things moving forward. But I thought he was absolutely superb last night, absolutely superb, and he's just growing and growing in terms of what he means to the fans and this football club, is he not?
Yeah, I mean, it's like you say, you think of him as this sort of, back in his Arsenal days, his sort of pacey playmaker. He sort of came onto the scene at the same time as sort of Walcott and was sort of a similar kind of winger, maybe not as quick, but it's amazing to see how composed he is on the ball, how strong he is at keeping the ball, and like you say, the defensive work. It's almost like there's something, he's just good at everything. He's very much kind of that Moussa Dembele type. Yeah, okay, he doesn't glide across the pitch the same way and the ridiculous control, but the way that he's attacking is with intent. The passing is with precision, and the defending itself is just, he's actually quite difficult to beat in a one-on-one duel. So he's actually really fit in that central position quite well, and somewhere probably we haven't utilised as much as we have to, or that we could do. And I think if you speak to Everton fans, I think his time at Everton was mostly central, and he was in that sort of more number 8 box-to-box kind of player, and now we're sort of reaping the rewards of, it doesn't matter where we put him on the pitch, it just, we're getting the results, and we're getting probably the best performances that he's done in a Fulham shirt in a long time, and it just keeps getting better as well. You think, oh, what a great performance that was from Iwobi last week. And then this week against Brighton, phenomenal. I mean, Dave, I don't know if you've got anything you want to say about Iwobi and his performance.
Yeah, I just looking forward to watching him play again. He's become that player for me that I look forward to watching every weekend. And what really I think his best attribute is that he doesn't give the ball away. And it's because he's so careful with the ball. But he's not slow. He's not slow taking his time and getting intercepted or tackled. But he's just so composed, and he's starting to not just be in his passing, it's also in his shooting. Some of the chances he had last night, composed himself and finished. And I just thought, wow, I can't think of too many teams in the league that wouldn't have Iwobi in their side at the moment, the way he's playing. I think he's just a big part of why we're 6th in the league right now. And for me, just definitely our player of the season so far.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think even early days with Iwobi, there was times where he would sort of snatch at chances and couldn't finish. It was quite funny. He would do everything apart from finish, and it's amazing the confidence you get from just a couple of goals. But yeah, we'll go into the game a little bit more detail. But one thing I do want to touch upon is just how good was it to see a number 9 Fulham shirt on the pitch again in Muniz. Just there's something about just the aura that he brings, and Dunk and their centre backs know they're in a game when they're against Muniz, because he's just an absolute handful. But he literally plays with a smile on his face, and I'm really glad that he is sort of getting another chance, another crack at being our sort of full-time number 9. I
think it's so evident how much he wants to please Marco, please the fans, and actually repay the trust that the club has actually invested in him, given him, whatever the right turn of phrase is. But his energy levels are fantastic. He's so competitive. He's got a hang on him, hasn't he? He's got a bit of a Mitro hang on him. He can get up in the air. He's got quite a climb on him. and he's a strong boy, and he's good to watch. It's a shame. I know Dave had a few words of wisdom that he texted Mooney's after the game with about getting in the box, but I still like what I saw. He's a very different character to Raul, but I think even though he didn't score last night, I think he's done enough to start, because I can feel it in my bones that he could be on the verge of going on another run.
I don't disagree with that. I thought he looked sharp last night. I really enjoyed his performance. I thought he was strong. He held the ball up. I thought he played some great balls out wide to some of the wingers, bringing wingers into play. So he did a great job as the traditional target man striker last night. The only thing I think's missing between last season during the purple patch and now is getting the 6-yard box, because a lot of his goals came from, just tap-ins in the 6-yard box, what you want a striker to do. And he's just a little bit deep for me. And I just think if he can just get into those, on the last man, the goal scoring will start again. I think he's done enough to start at the weekend, and I'm excited to see him play.
Absolutely. And I just love the chaos he brings. It's almost like Darwin Núñez type, where you don't know what he's going to do. You just lump the ball up to him, and you're like, I found myself just watching as the ball kind of hangs in the swirling winds at Craven Cottage last night. You're just watching him, and he's grappling with Dunk. Dunk doesn't want to be in that kind of position where he's kind of almost like got him in a headlock type thing without the physicality of actually giving away a foul. But it's really awkward to watch, really awkward to defend against, and that's what you want. And you just want the ball then to sort of fall to your players like Iwobi and Smith Rowe, and then the wingers coming into play. I think it's just fantastic. But hey, we go on. So sorry, go on.
Oh, I was just going to say, I've been talking about it. We have all been talking about it. Our last line of defence been fantastic this year, led by Anderson, Kenny. I mean, all of them. It would be unfair to single any of them out, to be quite fair. They've all done a slightly different job and done a brilliant job. And defensive midfield is really, really coming together. And the wingers are starting to look dangerous. And you're absolutely right. There is no great team without that ball of energy up front. Darwin Núñez is a really good example where it's just truly threatening, and it just puts something amongst the defenders. And even if he doesn't score, that level of chaos means they've got to mark him so closely, creates other opportunities. Got to have it. Absolutely got to have it. And I reckon Marco would have loved his performance last night. Absolutely loved it.
I think we all did. Absolutely. But no, so moving on to the first goal, and don't worry, Dave, I won't come to you, seeing as you missed the goal. But Elton, it was quite clear that the game plan from the get-go was, this is a Brighton team that like to have the ball. We want to shut down the passing avenues as quickly as possible and get in your face, and it paid off. Yeah.
I mean, we were putting them under a lot of pressure. They were trying to play like we do, dare I say. And, the goalkeeper looked like he had a bit of a brain snap at that point. It was very similar to that pass that Leno did. I can't remember who it was, but Leno did a crazy short pass to, can't remember who
Smith
it was.
Rowe, isn't it?
Yeah, almost identical position. And to your point, Iwobi was so calm. I know if that was the training ground, he'd put that away, 99 times out of 100. But it's 3 or 4 minutes into a match, and you don't expect it, and it's an opportunity, and it's moving quickly, and there are defenders all around you trying to close it down. And he was very, very calm. He caressed the ball, side-footed it really beautifully into the net to finish it. Made it look easy, but he really pounced on an opportunity. And we were always talking in the Premier League how, if you make a mistake, teams punish you. So often we don't punish teams, and he did. And, you would have. It was a bit like Son last week. Should have put that goal away, and we took that chance and put it away. And it was fantastic.
No, I mean, you can't say any more than that. And Dave, I assume you watched the highlights. If you've got anything to add.
Yeah, no, yeah, look, it's a goalkeeping error, but really composed finish from Iwobi, and I think it was really important that we got ahead in this game because I know we'll move on to it, but I personally thought Brighton took over a little bit after that. Certainly from when I got in the stadium, and which was just after the goal. It did feel a little bit like they were the team that was causing, had the attacking intent, getting in behind, getting chances. And I was really impressed with them, actually. I thought their build-up play was, really, really good. Not many teams press us back like that in the first half of games at home. So credit to them for that. But it did limit the rest of the chances that we made in that half because we were kind of on the back foot.
Yeah, and I think the only other chance that we really kind of had was, I think there was a Iwobi again, just from the chaos of Muniz we were talking about, puts Iwobi, I say through on goal, but he was bearing down on goal, didn't really have the pace to get away, and kind of the ball gets kind of stuck under his feet, I think. But like we were really seeing some successes from their defence not handling the press very well. But like you say, after that, it was very much Brighton controlling it. A lot of play coming down their left-hand side with Mitoma and Estepunian against Castagna. So I was noticing quite an imbalance of Wilson potentially either sort of coming centrally or trying to get close to Muniz, which was leaving the width quite open. And then poor Castagna had almost like a 2-on-1. And when you're in a 2-on-1 position, you don't want that in any kind of Premier League game. But when you've got Estepunian, who has been probably one of the best sort of left wing backs, probably in recent Premier League history, as well as Mitoma, who everyone talks about as doing his dissertation at university on dribbling. So he knows all he can do it, and he knows the sort of the theory behind it as well. He was in for a bit of a torrid time, and especially when you haven't played as much as Castagna has as recent times, because of Tete's just been so dominant that coming in quite rusty into a game against those sort of opposition must be quite hard. But I mean, for that first half, how did you feel that sort of Castagna did? Do you think it was his fault that he was getting roasted so much, or do you just feel like it was the opposition, Dave?
I think you're right. I think the Brighton, overloaded us a bit down that side, and potentially it might have been a better game for Tete just because that plays a bit more into his strengths. I feel that he'd been a bit more solid up against Mitoma, but I wouldn't put too much blame on Castagna. As you say, it's a hard game to come into, but certainly most of their good chances came down that side. I remember Leno making a pretty good save at point blank range about midway through the half, and that came from, I think, a ball from Mitoma outside of the boot across the box. Is that right?
It was, yeah. Mm-hmm.
So, that we needed to, as Dave Wellington has mentioned in the chat, we needed to address that at half time.
To be fair, though, I know Mitoma's highly rated, but I never think that he does that well against Fulham. I always think we seem to kind of have his measure. Tete always does, definitely. And one thing I would say, I think it's a really very, very good mark of where Mark has got this fairly shallow and quite skinny squad too. That you've got the likes of Timmy Castagna, who comes back, played some international football, hasn't played a lot of Premier League football, gets an opportunity to come back in and slots in really very, very well in a difficult game. I mean, they're a very, very good side. You got Diop, has played very little football, comes in for Anderson, absolutely slotted in. He's had another good game last night, I thought. He didn't shine, but he didn't put a foot wrong. and I thought he was very, very good. And even the guys. If you think about the number of changes we've had in the number 8 over the last 6 weeks, it's been Pereira, Iwobi, Lukic. Yeah, it's a lot of change in there, but somehow they're performing at a very, very high level.
Mm-hmm. No, you're quite right, and I think it really is kind of credit to Diop. I would say Diop has probably got the hardest position to slot into, I think, because that's been a problem position for us since the sort of Tosin decided to up sticks and leave. And for someone who has been at the club during the sort of tough time, where we couldn't really solidify that position, that we had to bring Anderson in to then come back into that position and still play at a similar level that Anderson was showing, I think it is real credit for Diop to having to step up. And I think Marco's quite right, called him a very good professional in doing so. So I think that is definitely credit to him. And look, it was really tough on that right-hand side. So I was quite fortunate that I say fortunate, it was quite hard to watch, but it was in H6. I had the Diop and Castagna in front of me. The press was relentless from, I think, João Pedro, then you had Mitoma, and I'm now going to forget the name, it might have been Baliba, who were just pushing everything, and they were really shutting us off from going left, and this would be one for Kish to look at when he's back from his holiday, but they felt like they were pushing us right every time. So get the ball over to Castagna and get him to deal with it. And there was a couple of times where Castagna was sort of kicking it straight out of play, trying to find Iwobi, and Diop doing the same. And I mean, there was people around me that were saying, "Oh, Castagna this, Diop that," but I was just thinking, you know what? They're so under the cosh and don't really have that much time to sort of relax. That these kind of passes are going to happen, and this is where Muniz comes in terms of dropping the ball high up to him and just seeing what he can do with it, and just seeing if we can just gamble off of that second ball from when he's battling with the centre backs. But no, we can't talk about the first half without mentioning Bernd Leno. Fantastic. I think really early on the signs were there. João Pedro was put in behind, and then obviously the point blank save that you mentioned from Adingra. We take an early lead, but we go into that second half, 2-1 down. We potentially have a different game on our hands, and I think that's definitely down to Leno. So I mean, for you guys, how instrumental has Leno been, Elton, for not even just yesterday, but for the season? He's got to be up there as like one of the top 4 in the Premier League this season, surely.
Yeah, it's a bit cliche, but unfortunately, goalkeepers, like wicket keepers, are just expected to do the job. We don't notice them when they're doing their job, and when they are consistent in terms of both stopping the shots, starting the build-up, actually being part of the defensive line. Leno's good with the ball at his feet, and he is, it's very easy to forget how good a keeper he actually is, and we're very lucky to have him. I love the guy. I think he's absolutely solid as a rock. I really, really like him.
Dave?
Yeah, I think really two really important saves in the first half. I think earlier in the season there was a couple of goals against where there was a few questions asked about whether he could have done a little bit better. I'm thinking the Ipswich game with Delap. I'm thinking the West Ham goal as well. I think there was some people were mentioning, could he have done a bit better? But I think, now in this moment in the season, I think that he is, playing really well. And he's, we're not conceding loads of chances directly at him. But when we do, he's there and he's doing his job. You think back to that Brentford game a few weeks ago when, they obviously had that one chance from long range, which was, unsavable really. But then right at the end, when we needed him, Burnt was there. And that's really valuable. So, yeah, he's in a good place at the moment and helping the team when we need him to. So long may that continue.
Yeah, definitely. I think instrumental to our league position. I think there's been some really crucial moments which can't be forgotten. but not just from last night, from other games as well. But no, that first half, I think there was some big blocks from Bassi. We were quite under the cosh. Going in at 1-0 was probably favourable, I would say, just from the way that we were playing. Probably nothing to do with how we were playing, more about how Brighton were playing. They just seemed to be really on it and moving the ball around. And I think, as David Wellington mentioned, Marco talked about a tactical change. So Brighton normally play with 2 strikers. They dropped one of the strikers out and added another in midfield. So potentially they knew about our weakness of, Lukic out, Kearney out, kind of inexperienced in the middle there, and decided to try and take a hold on that. And that did kind of work for them in that first half. But we did see the tweaks coming into the second. And I think it's early on, I think it's the goal for Brighton. I don't think it could have been stopped. There's no real point where I say, that's exactly where we went wrong. High ball up to João Pedro, knocks it down to Baliba. Clean strike, right in the corner. Probably what Brighton deserved. But from that moment on, we saw some changes, and I think it was quite interesting to see. For me, it was Nelson and Emil Smith-Rowe probably had one of their quietest games I'd seen in a Fulham shirt. There was an element, and you can call me out on being harsh here, feel free, but there was an element of what I would just call laziness from Smith-Rowe particularly. I think Nelson is guilty of it a little bit. We saw it for the Spurs goal where he tried to pass on to Bassi, who just wasn't aware and didn't track his man. And I think that's where we sort of saw some fullbacks yesterday, where I don't think Smith-Rowe was putting in enough of a shift. I don't know whether he was carrying a knock or he looked like he was sort of playing in that general way. But the benefit of the doubt I would give Nelson is that, the one time, I think there was 2 times where he actually did his normal knock and run. Once where Van Hecker then took him clean out and got a yellow card. And then the second where he took it past, I think it was Dunk. And, as soon as he got past him, his hamstring goes. So maybe that was probably tight most of the game and he didn't want to push it. And the moment that he did push it, it was just too much for him. But I don't know. Do you think I'm being harsh that I thought that they were probably the right subs? I think there's a moment where Smith-Rowe and Nelson need a little bit of a kick and say, you're not at Arsenal anymore. We are relying on you. You can't rely on, say, Odegaard or Rice or Martinelli to pick up the pieces and be those pieces of magic for the team. For us, you are those magic players and we need you to put it in a shift in. Do you think I'm being harsh, Elton, in calling them out and thinking they were a bit lacklustre last night?
I think it goes beyond last night, and I think you're right. I think that's a fair call. I'm a bit concerned about it, actually, and I think it's a kind of thing that Marco Silva, who he expects a lot from he expects very, very hard work from players, and I think they get a bollocking in his mind and on the training track and in the dressing room if they don't put in a massive amount of effort. Smith-Rowe bothers me. There's no quality. I mentioned this in our chat. There's no question about his quality, but it does bother me that when he loses the ball and he's beaten, he seems to give up. His head goes. You can see it in his body language. I don't think it's tiredness, and that worries me. I wouldn't even call it. It is an attitude. It's just a lack of hunger. It's the sort of thing that, if you compare that to what Harry Wilson was doing against Spurs last week, where if it didn't quite work and he lost the ball and got the ball taken off him, he was back there working so hard to win it back for the team. I don't see that from Smith-Rowe, and I know he's a forward and that might not be his main job, but everyone's got to be doing that, because when everyone around the pitch does it, including your number 9, the whole thing lifts. And I think it's concerning because I think that stuff. Your teammates look at that stuff and think I'm busting a gasket at my balls here, and you're only in for the pretty stuff. Well, that's how it looks. I think Nelson's a little different. I see him as sometimes being a little bit naive in front of goal. He almost doesn't know. He'll take one touch too many, or he just doesn't know when he needs to pull the trigger and just have a rank shot at it, because he's probably in a very good position. But I think that's coachable, and I think with confidence that can come. I see less of the kind of lazy attitude, if I can say it that brutally, from Nelson than I do from Smith Rowe, and I don't like it. I'd like that to be different. I'd like Marco to change that.
I thought, I think Smith Rowe was a bit quiet again. Yeah, and I think you're right. It was the right substitution to bring him off. Obviously, Nelson had to go off because he pulled his hamstring. And I thought first half where we were under the cosh, we didn't really get to see either Smith Rowe or Nelson really impact the game. But Nelson was a bit better in the second half and made some good breaks forward, as you said. So quick at turning and getting the ball out of his feet and getting us up the pitch. So that is a quality that helps the side. But when we spoke earlier about Iwobi, I was talking about his composure in front of goal, and the second goal is a classic example of that. And actually, Nelson had a fantastic opportunity midway through the half, just before he went off, where he'd got into similar position, maybe a better position than Iwobi, and kind of tried to take too many touches to get it round the last defender instead of having a shot, and then got a bit stuck under his feet and the chance went. And that's the problem I've got with Nelson a bit. It's just end product. When he's got time and space to put in a good cross, he's a really good crosser of the ball. We've seen that a couple of times, especially last game. We saw it with Diop at the back post, nearly scored a header. Great ball in by Nelson. Actually, when it comes to shooting, he's still got his head down at his feet. He's not looking up to see, the goal in front of him. And he's going to need some coaching to get that out of his game. So that was a forced change, but those are the right two players to depart at that point.
Dave, you've skirted over how lazy is Emil Smith Rowe question. I want it from the heart. I want it from your head. I want the truth.
Yeah, no, I don't know. Maybe that's, I can accept that as a criticism of him. I hadn't thought about it in that way. I just think that he was struggling to impact the game. First half, as I said, we were under the cosh a lot, so we weren't really in the final third all too often. I like Smith Rowe when he gets the ball at his feet and starts running at people. I think he's really dangerous when he does that, and he doesn't seem to do it enough. So I'd like to see him, do that a bit more. The thing about Smith Rowe, and I did note, I think it was Cottage Tactico might have mentioned this in one of his posts recently, is, when we're on top and we're attacking, he's great with his link-up play. As I said, he's good running with the ball and he can help us create chances. But when it's going against us, he's not the man really to kind of turn it round for us. He kind of goes missing. That's a bit of a problem, I think. It becomes a little bit of a liability when we're under the cosh. I don't think he's a player that can play every game. If he's, because there are going to be times where we play against clubs that dominate possession and we're going to have to counter attack, and he can't be a passenger in those games. We need players that can make more of an impact. So maybe we'll start to see some him being rotated in and out of the team until he finds a better level of form.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, like you say, the teams that starve us of possession are probably not the games which he wants to be in. It's just not what he does. And, we're going to mention a cameo, a debut later on, but I'm going to quickly touch upon it now because that is what I kind of want from a position, as someone in his position, that kind of worked great, letting people know you're there and kind of kicking at ankles a little bit. But hey, we'll get there. But we made some subs. So Smith Rowe had a quiet game. Unfortunately, Nelson was forced off, and hoping that it's not too serious and we do see him back soon. But enter the frame Adama Traore and one Andreas Pereira. So Andreas dropped into his normal 8 position. I was quite surprised. I thought they would keep Iwobi doing what he was doing really well in the centre of the park, and Andreas maybe stay in his more familiar and probably more preferred role as number 10. But they seem to swap. And moving, well, Adama started on the left, I believe, and Wilson staying on the right. Few boos for Mr. Pereira. I say kind of expected, but like, come on, guys. I mean, I think, Dave, we've had this conversation probably off air about sort of booing your own players, but Elton, what's your view on if a person is disgruntled the fan base? Should fans be letting them know their feelings, or should we just sort of get on with it and take Marco's word as his trust is our trust?
I don't like it. I think fans are there to support the team. I think if we didn't believe in our manager, that's a different problem. But as a group of fans I'm talking about here, I believe is there anyone who thinks Marco isn't the best manager that we could possibly have right now, realistically? You can't blame Marco for kind of managing things from a PR perspective, shielding Pereira, because you don't want that stuff to get out of control. So if Marco's being a little bit opaque and a bit careful in his selection of words in the press, I'm fine with that. I like the great manager and leader that he is, I expect him to deal with it behind closed doors. We've seen it. He's been disciplined. He's not even on the bench. He's left out completely in a big game. You can't tell me that was tactical. He's a good player. His form has been up and down, but you'd still have him in and around the squad if he wasn't starting. So for him to be out of, not featuring in the game at all, is a clear statement that something's gone on. And I think you'd have to be a bit stupid as a fan to not realise that the matter is in hand. It's been dealt with. So I realise people are passionate about their club and, they maybe are concerned that Pereira's heart's not in it. When it's all said and done, he's a professional footballer. Did he come along and come on the field yesterday and run around and look like he didn't want to be there? Not at all. So I think if it's good enough for Marco to put him on the bench and then sub him on when he thinks he needs him, and Pereira comes on, and if you don't mind, he did actually put in a goal-winning corner, and he wasn't rubbish. He wasn't moping around the park. Leave it to the manager. Support the players. I think the players need that. No one wants that. We do not want to be that club.
Dave, I believe you're similar.
Yeah, no, I don't like booing our own players. I mean, for me, I would never do that. But I'm also a little bit. There's a part of me that thinks, these guys, everyone around me, they are paying money, and if that's how they want to express their disappointment, what happened, right? Yeah, then who am I to say don't do it? But personally, I just think it creates a bit of a toxic atmosphere. But I think. No, as Elton said, I think Elton, when Pereira came on, he didn't look like a player didn't want to be there last night. So that was good. And I'm glad that he played a part in the second goal, because I think that maybe, takes some of the heat off him at the moment. So hopefully, what we'll see is, whether he's starting or on the bench, I think that perhaps there'll be, now that we can see that he is trying, and and being involved in goals is a great way to get the fans on side. So I think maybe we'll start to see the situation start to resolve itself, at least until January, and then we'll see what happens there.
Yeah, and to be fair, going back to a point that Elton made, which was, some stupid fans. I did have a very stupid fan next to me, or not next to me, a few rows back, but players were warming up as they do, decided to boo a certain player. Everyone thought it was Andreas. It was Josh King that was running towards the fans. He was booing him, thinking that was Andreas, and just the guy next to him nudged him and just said, "Sit down, you daft." That's Josh King, and he just sat down. But no, I mean, you touched upon it fantastically, which was, I think it was either the first or the second corner that Andreas put in, and it was in front of my block, and there was a chorus of boos while he's about to take a corner, and you're like, he's just about to whip a ball in, and
That's
you're
stupid.
thinking, and then we score from it. Unorthodox, but they all count at the end of the day. You put in a dangerous ball, it could bounce off anyone, and I think the real hero here for me is Scott Parker. He let a man go 4 years ago for this day, for this goal 4 years later. So Scott Parker is a genius. He had a plan all along, but Castagna, I think he gets a little bit of a touch, maybe more of a touch. Flicks off the rear end of O'Reilly, and they all count at the end of the day, and 2-1.
I thought it might have skimmed Mooney's head, actually.
There was 3 players claiming it.
Okay, I don't mind.
There was Castagna.
I don't care.
Reeling away. I think Mooney's came away, and then Bassi was all jaunty.
Yeah.
I think he
Bassi
thought
was
he got a
getting
touch.
the ball, yeah.
God knows who got a touch, but it was very much. It was one definitive touch. Let's put it that way. But I think what was key for me was Diop was an absolute menace in front of the goalkeeper. I think they even had to pause before the kick was taken to have a word with Diop and the defender and the goalkeeper to say, keep your hands down. And as soon as you put in a decent enough ball, and someone as big as Diop is making a menace of himself in front of the goalkeeper, anything can happen. And it's one of those points where, do you see that's potentially somewhere that we've dropped down, Elton, in our corner taking this season, is that we've had to sacrifice such a sort of a big presence, 6'5" Diop to, I think he's about 6'2", 6'1" Anderson. I don't think he's massive, but is losing a player of that kind of physicality affecting our offset pieces and preventing us from actually taking them forward, or is it just more of a mental block?
I think it's a bit of both. I think it's a bit of kind of limitation on our technical ability to actually deliver the ball into dangerous areas from both sides for corners. But height definitely comes into it. It's a very, very physical scrap, isn't it? Even if you put the ball in the right area, if you don't have height ascendancy, then how do you dominate? And Diop is very good. He is very good on those set pieces in the box. I actually rate him. But yeah, no, I think no. Sorry, that's all I want to say.
No, that's good. But no, I think you're quite right. I think it's was it 177 corners, was it, that we took without a goal? I think that's got to be a Premier League record. I mean, to be fair, there's probably like one in that Derby County season where they only got 11 points, so they probably didn't score a corner all season, but there's got to be something pretty similar. But, I mean... Actually,
sorry, Skippy, just before you go on, the one last thing I would say about this whole booing thing of Andreas. Look, the one common thing that Dave mentioned, people pay their 100 quid or whatever they pay for their ticket, and they've got a right to express themselves in the way that they can. I don't think everyone's got a right to express themselves, including being an idiot. But the one thing we do have in common is that we all want our football team to win. And if you think that kind of behaviour from the stands is going to help the players and help the fans all have a great experience on the day, you're daft. You're absolutely stupid. So if the one common thing that we all have is that we want our team to win, that can't be a very good contribution from the stands. It's stupid. So I'm not buying it.
No, absolutely. I think you're quite spot on there, and I think we're all in unison, so I'm happy with that. But 2-1, we seem to be a bit more comfortable in the game, and suddenly the tides turned. That we're bringing on players, Raul, who's been in some good sort of goal scoring form. I believe Josh King came on for his debut, but in the same way that Brighton made their changes, that João Pedro, Adingra, O'Reilly came off, and it wasn't really the same sort of intensity. And I think sitting at 2-1, Dave, with Jimenez and Josh King entering the frame, did you feel a bit more comfortable? Did you feel that this was something which we could see out, or did you feel like it was just we needed that other goal and it was slipping away?
No, I thought we were very much on top at that point, and fortunately the changes. We didn't lose intensity, and we kept creating chances. So that just shows like the strength of our squad. I think that we can make changes and still. And we've been doing this all season. Really, we've been great off the bench. Really, the players that have come on have really made impact. So it's nice to see that happen again, and it's great to see a 17-year-old, academy player get a run out, wasn't it? So. I thought that he did absolutely fine. He was busy and getting involved, so I was pleased for him. I saw the little video that they put out from the club website afterwards. He looked chuffed to bits that he'd made his debut, so that was really nice to see. Won't be the last time we see him for sure. I think he'll be more and more involved in the squads as the season goes on. So. Yeah, it was good that after the changes, we didn't lose intensity, and as I say, I think at that point we were very much controlling the game, and it was. Of course, it was the third goal came fairly, not too long after, if I remember right. Was it the 87th minute? The third goal, I think. So it wasn't
87.
Yeah, it was about 10 minutes after, I think, the second goal, if that's right. I don't know. But they, So it came reasonably quickly after. And at that point, we did take the game away from Brighton. And we touched on that third goal a little bit earlier. But I've watched that quite a few times today. I really, really enjoyed it. I just, another assist from Robinson, by the way. He's really racking them up this season. Is that his fifth? Fourth or fifth?
Fourth, I believe, and the most assists by a Premier League defender this season.
Yeah, fantastic. I mean, that said, Iwobi had lots to do.
He didn't exactly put it on a plate for him, did he?
No, he didn't. No. Iwobi had to he stumbled past the first defender, did well to keep hold of the ball. And he wasn't even looking at goal, which was quite interesting. He he was going away from goal, kind of towards the edge of the box. But he's just got this kind of, I suppose it's a sign of a confident player. He just seemed to know exactly where the goal was, and in true composed style, managed to find a shot that found the corner. It might have been a slight deflection, but it was more or less going in that area. And fabulous goal. And just as I say at the start, I just so pleased and so excited to go and watch Alex Iwobi play every week at the moment. It was, he really deserved that, I thought, for his all-round performance yesterday.
Man full of confidence, isn't it, Elton?
Yeah. It was quite funny. It was quite comical, actually, because I think that he was kind of messing around with it. They looked like, as you mentioned in the chat before we went live, it looked like he was going to get a kick. There was a lot going on, and he somehow managed to get it out of his feet. But he's doing it easy at the moment, isn't he? And he's absolutely loving it. And what I do enjoy about it is that he's the heartbeat of this team at the moment, both on and off the pitch. He's obviously an incredibly well-liked guy. He's a funny guy. He and Bassi are just, nuts together. I can't understand them when they get going. I think he's doing it for fun at the moment. And I think everyone is really enjoying it. It's proper vibes, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, I would give up a Fulham Netflix special All or Nothing type series of just a Bassi and Iwobi series. I think that would just be great to watch. I think there was a video somebody posted for Castagna's birthday yesterday where I think it was, I think Bassi's filming, Iwobi's sort of rapping along to a song, Adama's vibing to it, and then it just goes to Castagna, who's just not with it at all, and I'm just laughing so much. It's just you get these little glimpses, and it's just so likable how great the atmosphere is around the squad. That they're all just having a bit of a laugh, but yeah,
even Adama, who's quite a serious bloke. He's sort of they kind of drag him into it and draw him in, like he can't get away with being on the outer, which I think he was. I felt like he was when he first joined the club. He felt like he didn't really fit in, and I was a bit concerned that
it took a long time, didn't it?
He wasn't going to enjoy his time at Fulham. But I think those guys are so funny and so kind of, I don't know, natural that they just don't take anyone seriously. And you could be the straightest person in the world and they will just, pull your trousers down.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's great. It's great for squad morale, and I think we're seeing the rewards of that on the pitch as well. Just not from. It's a stark contrast to the squad that Parker had, or who we went down with when we had Ranieri. There was just no similar kind of feel around the club that Marco has brought. So, I mean, it's one thing being fantastic sort of football players and getting everything right tactically, but then also just everything off the pitch just gives you a lot more confidence on it.
And to be to sort of follow on from that, if you noticed when Andreas was on the pitch and the goals were scored, and he was getting involved, and people were not freezing him out. It didn't look like he was, some leper in the camp. He was right in the middle of it, and these guys, they're footballers. They've all got dickhead agents. They've all got crazy, stupid people around them. They're probably not the most smartest commercial or best marketing PR people in the world. And I think, it doesn't look to me like he is in the Tosin zone. If you know what I mean. Tosin, I think, got himself into a real state within the squad where I think he was very much out of favour with the management team, and I think the players got pretty browned off at that attitude as well. I don't think we've got the same thing here with Pereira. I certainly hope that's not the case, and if he can keep coming on and doing his bit for Marco, sure, I have no doubt that he's going at some point. He's made that pretty clear. And that's fine, as long as we can make 20 million quid or even 10 or 15 off the back of it. Happy days. We move on.
Well, who knows? I mean, we might even match his ambitions if we get into Europe this year. I mean, I'm not saying that he's going to be our starting midfielder in Europe, but I don't think he starts for Marseille either. But I mean, are we potentially, the way that we're going, could be on the same level as Marseille anyway, and that he might be saying, well, I'm settled here, I know the manager, I know the players, why would I disrupt that for European football elsewhere when that's what I've got at home, but time will tell. We'll see. I mean, I know I glanced over it in the chat, but Steve Reynolds saying, would Andreas be here in January? I think yes. Personally, I think it's more of a summer transfer. I can't see him forcing a move out in January, but unless something drastically changes, but unless you guys have a different view, I can't see him leaving in January and gone February.
I think if someone comes in and puts the money down that we want, then I could see him leaving. He's not, clearly there's been an issue there with Marco, and Andreas has kind of said that, he's always looking out for opportunities and contacting his agent when there's links to see if they're real. That sounds like a player who wants to leave. So I think the only way he'll leave is if his agents are able to find him a club that will pay the fee. Yeah, we'll see if that comes to fruition or not.
Yeah, no, I think you're quite right. But I mean, on his current form, I can't see anyone putting the money up, to be honest. But it's good bet.
You say that if he can stay around the Brazil squad, that's good for valuation. And if he can keep getting minutes in internationally, and Fulham stocks rise, and he's playing a part and getting a couple of assists, maybe a few goals, I think someone will take him on.
I actually think he'll be better suited to one of the European leagues where it's not quite as fast and you're not under so much pressure on the ball. Because when he's got time and space, he's a wonderful player. Just doesn't get it very often in the Premier League because of the style of football. I think I could imagine him in Italy being real standout player with that much time. So I think it'd be a good investment for a European club. I think maybe it would work for both parties. But we need to get the right fee. We can't let him go for peanuts. And I think it'll be interesting to see in January if there's any links.
The thing that always amazes me about players is that when you're a club and you're desperate for a key player, in a key position, and you're a little bit short on quality and names are mentioned, it's funny, but the petulance factor, we quickly we quickly dismiss that as being a major issue. People just look at the quality when you're desperate for a player in a position, and you kind of go, no, we can deal with that. It'll be different when he comes to us. And all the fans are going, oh, he's a problem. And the other fans will be thinking, no, we can take him on. We can integrate him. It'll be fine. And I think incoming fans and clubs tend to overlook the kind of the histrionics and the kind of soft things that come with players. I really do think they do. They focus on the talent that I think they feel is missing, and are prepared to overlook a lot of things, thinking it'll be different.
Not just players, though. I mean, the manager that I mentioned previously, Scott Parker, everyone, Bournemouth, but it'll be different. He's got his record of getting promoted, and then suddenly the cracks show. And then Burnley started to see the same thing. They said the same, and they're starting the same thing. So there you go, the petulance factor. I like that. But no, 3-1 win, wrapped up. Not as easy as we like, and brings us up to 6th in the Premier League. Who's got their altitude sickness pills ready? I think I've got a couple going. But if you said to me 14 games in, and you're 4 points off Man City, I thought you'd think that we're runaway second place in the league, wouldn't you? But hey, we'll take 6th, won't we? But credit to where credit's due. I think we've had this question previously on the podcast, but I think we're good value for our position in the league. I don't think we're overachieving as such. I think we've potentially overachieving given that we want to be sort of pushing for this space, but I don't think we expected to be here at this level at this point. But I think, not to mention the points that we've dropped where we feel like we should have done better, that puts us even further, which is incredible. But I think all credit as credit's due is we are where we are and we want to stay there. So I think that's a fantastic position to be in, but especially in a real tough few games as well. So I mean, to come out of Spurs away and Brighton at home with 4 points, I think is quite a good result. And you take in the asterisk of we were down to 10 men for 20 minutes against Spurs in a game where we could have easily won. We could be sitting here with 6 points after those two games, going into Arsenal at home or Arsenal at home and Liverpool away. But yeah, how do you guys feel at the moment in terms of the league position?
League position's fantastic. It's great to look at the league table. We're up in 6th. Be interesting to see where we are in 4 or 5 games time, because as you say, we've got some tough fixtures. right after the Arsenal Liverpool game, we've got a home game to Southampton, which we'd hope to win. But then it gets tough again. Chelsea away, Derby, anything can happen, but still a tough game. And then Bournemouth, and I think Bournemouth are no pushovers. They're a good side. So, yeah, some tough fixtures. They don't get any easier. I'll tell you what, if we're still sixth then, blimey, I'm going to be thinking about Europe if we manage to hold that position after that run.
Yeah. I can imagine that high-quality content provider on X, the other 14s, probably scratching around doing his homework and actually reorganising all his folders and getting Fulham, a nice little Fulham folder.
No, we'll be removed, won't we?
Archived.
From the other 14.
Yeah, we'll be archived.
Can't be in the other 14 if we're in the big six, can we?
Exactly. Well, we'll have to start whinging about refs, favouring the smaller teams soon.
Yeah, how do we get onto Chris Kavanagh's payroll? That's what we want to know. That's not defamation, is it?
We'll find out on the weekend, I think.
Let's hope. But no, one last thing I will say, I did forget this, and she did have a go at me. So my mother was not very happy with the last pod because I was very disrespectful to Brighton, and she's a Brighton fan. So I was disrespectful, very overconfident was what she said. And then I think she said, yeah, fair enough at the end of full time. So 3-1 win. But so what I will say, Mum, is I was completely right. Get over yourself, and Brighton are way better. So Brighton are way better. Fulham are way better than Brighton. So there you go. And we'll see how that goes. My phone's going to ring, isn't it? If I get cut off, you know why I've been grounded. But no, so we move on. Arsenal home this coming Sunday. So we're doing a quick preview now because we just don't have the time to do another one. This is the best thing about festive fixtures, isn't it? That everything comes thick and fast. We have Arsenal, the kings of corners, coming to the cottage after a season where they only picked up one measly point at home to the mighty Fulham. Dave, how do you feel that we will fare against Arsenal? And do you feel like they now have a point to prove and they're really going to take us to the sword?
Yes. So I think it's going to be a really tough game. And I'm hoping that we'll be competitive, but I wouldn't say I'm confident that we'll, be able to pick up a win here. It's Arsenal are in a pretty good form, and they'll be aware that last year we beat them in this fixture and got points away. So I'd expect them to be quite up for it. And whereas we're all really pleased with last night how it went, the first half showed that we can be got at, and Brighton did create chances and put us under pressure. I think Arsenal would be more clinical if they have that amount of possession and attacking chances, because they are more clinical. They've got so many goal scorers in their team. So we've just got to be a bit careful. We've got to take our chances when they come. And, I hope the crowd are up for it. Marco's done a bit of a rallying cry. He says he needs the 12th man on Sunday. So, we've all got to try and help the team, support the team. And, you never know. But I wouldn't say I'm particularly confident about this one. Bizarrely, I feel more confident that we might be able to compete for a result at Liverpool. And I don't know why. I just think away from home at the moment, we're tough to beat. And Liverpool recently just had a draw. So that maybe they're a little vulnerable. It's a better time to play them than it is Arsenal. I don't know. But that's just a gut feeling. There's no real logic to that. But yeah, I think it'd be a tough game on Sunday. And as long as we compete, I'll be happy.
Yeah. I've come to learn that every time we look at these difficult fixtures and think, how are we going to do this? This Fulham team, this Marcus Silva Fulham team turns up, and I feel very, very excited about the game, as I do about the game against Liverpool, because I think these guys relish the opportunity to actually face off against a really big side and pick them off. And, if we were a really ragged side defensively, you're going to get absolutely cut to pieces. But that's not the case. We are a really good, well organised defensive side. So, we kept a very dangerous attacking Spurs team goalless in the first half. We were good against Brighton. I don't think you can be overconfident about the likes of Arsenal and Liverpool. They're just that good. But we're good enough to keep the very, very best out. And then we've got a little bit of secret sauce. We've got a couple of mavericks like the Adamas. We've got Moonies who could have a fucking blinder and just go mad and just cause such a lot of trouble. One thing we've forgotten to mention, how was that cross-pitch volley from Moonies?
Oh, that pass. Straight into the path of Nelson. Fantastic.
Unbelievable. So this he's got a dash of the mercurial in him. I really do think he's that special. And I think this team are going to rise to the occasion. If we can do a job defensively, I'd love to know that Anderson was fit. I don't think he'd start even if he was fit. But Diop doing an absolute. The problem with Diop defensively, he's great, but we do lack a bit in terms of just that ability to creatively play out at the back when Anderson's not there. And against the very, very good teams, you kind of want that element. Obviously, Reece Nelson would not play anyway on the weekend, but I'm kind of hoping you want to hope that he's not going to be out for too long. But I was talking to Jack about it today, and he said, "Wonder how bad that really was." It feels like he went down pretty hard to me. I think that was a bit nasty. That looked a bit nasty.
Quick.
That looks like weeks to me. I cannot see him back soon. It's fine. We've got Adama, but there's just beyond Adama and Harry, it's skinny, isn't it?
Martial Godot could probably do a cameo when you're getting a bit tired in the 80th minute, but again,
against Liverpool, against Arsenal, bit much to ask.
Those teams, you're not going to be
Yeah.
getting much luck out of the wingers anyway, if I'm honest, because you're just not really seeing the ball. You're probably better off with sort of Sessegnon adding a bit more of a defensive cover as a winger potentially, but no, I think I completely agree with your assessment. Really, like on our day, I feel like we can beat anyone. I think we can give anyone a good game, and you know, we talk about Arsenal being these goal scorers from corners being their thing. A key element of that is Gabriel, and at the moment he's touch and go whether he's going to play. So that will be an interesting one. I mean, Kivior and Saliba, I believe, played against Man United, but you stick Muniz in between them, I don't think they want to be in that game. Saliba potentially be a bit more comfortable as a French international, but Kivior, I don't think he wants to be there. If I was Marco, I'd be like, right, you stand on Kivior, you give him hell, and you make things happen, because I reckon the first ball up to Muniz and he's hassling him and Kivior doesn't want to be there, then he's in for a tough day. But I think that's one of the key battles for me. It's just, Arsenal are going to press us high. Martinelli, Saka, Havertz, they're not defensive players. They're going to stay up. They're going to want the ball. They're going to give our fullbacks a torrid time. We probably won't see Robinson getting forward much, just for the threat of Saka on that sort of our left, their right hand side. But I think if you can get the ball up to Muniz to battle, just even if he can get any kind of flick onto Adama Traore, who has to come in for an injured Nelson, who is also tired and can't play against sort of his own club. But that's where you're going to win those battles. And I think with Lukic coming back, it's going to be very, very key. Lukic and Berger, holding and protecting that back four, trying to sort of crowd out any space that Odegaard can have. I think that's going to be another key battle. But honestly, I can see weaknesses in this Arsenal team. It's going to sound really optimistic, and it's going to sound probably deluded to some people, but watching Arsenal this season, I don't think they're unbeatable. And they don't seem to be the same kind of level as Liverpool at the moment. Liverpool are running away with the league. They're getting some fantastic results, but I mean, there's a reason Arsenal are only like 5 points off us, I think. They've dropped points. They're unbeatable. They are beatable, but coming to the Cottage, it's a hard place. It's somewhere that Arsenal haven't fared very well recently. Even a loss last year, and I would argue that our team is much, much better than it was last season. Would I say that Arsenal have improved on last season? I actually think they've dropped off, personally. They're not sort of in that top two where they want to be. But I do think that there's a reason for optimism, and I blame Silva for that. He's ruining my life. But, I mean, if I had to push you guys, predictions. Dave, you're on a streak, mate. What you say is gospel, so I reckon give us.
Oh, you're not going to want to hear this then, because no. I think they might have a bit too much for us on the day, unfortunately. Plus, I'm never confident with Chris Kavanagh as the referee. So yeah, I think we'll score, but I could see Arsenal, unfortunately, maybe picking up a win here, but. Of God, I hope that's not the case, and that you guys are right, and and Marco is able to pull another wonder out the bag, as that would really make our week. And what an incredible amount of points we'd be accumulating from what's supposed to be a really tricky run if we were able to get anything out of the game. And then just on prediction on team, I was kind of thinking Adama would come in initially, but I do wonder now if just defensively, maybe he'll just bring Lukic in for Nelson and put Iwobi on the wing. And, I do think Muniz will keep his place, and I think Tete might come back. But I'm not sure now. I've kind of second guessed myself on whether Traore will start. He's not been starting much recently either, so I do wonder if he'll just be kept as an impact sub.
Interesting. I know I said about not booing your own players and things, but everyone can boo Dave right now. Booze in the chat, please, because he's being pessimistic and we don't like it. Sorry, Elton.
No, it's good. No, you know what? We're coming into the festive season. I've had a couple of beers on a Friday night. I'm feeling a little less analytical and a little bit more. What's the right word? Yeah, optimistic, if you like. I actually think we might pull off a surprise once a season, maybe twice. You're going to have an upset, and it would be an upset, but it wouldn't be outlandish for us to lay a glove on Arsenal. I don't think. I'm going to go out there and I'm going to say we're going to win 2-1 at home. The other interesting thing is that Bassi, one yellow card away from a ban. And we need him. We need him to at least be around.
Now, but...
I know, but who would you rather have?
It's still a big ask, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah, I'd really want to see Bassi against Liverpool. I think we need him. And I mean, it's not going to be long before he does get a one-game ban. But yeah, we need to get through these games.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to keep mine short and sweet. I think it's going to be a 2-2 draw. I would love to say that we will beat them, but I do feel like a draw is more than achievable. I do think they're going to score, but I do think that they'll be vulnerable and we will score as well. But Sir Nerd, he comes into the chat. So, guys, if you're listening to this on the podcast or wherever you listen to your podcasts, we do live stream on YouTube. We do answer your questions in the comments. So if you want your questions answered, please come into our live streams and you can ask away and we can pick your questions. But Sir Nerd, says, would you guys be upset with 0 points against Arsenal? I mean, I'll go first. I would say no, I wouldn't be upset. I mean, this is the game of the season which you write off looking at the fixture list. I think anything Arsenal, Liverpool, Man City, home and away, you kind of write off. You kind of hope for some kind of point at home, but given the fact that we've got 4 points from our last two games, Spurs away and Brighton at home, I think that's still a very good result. So I would say that this is now kind of a free hit territory as we welcome Arsenal to Craven Cottage. Dave, how do you feel?
It depends on the manner of the defeats. If we were to get 0 points, if we're competitive, and we just lose out away from us, then I'll be satisfied with that. If we get thumped and we give up, then that's a different story. But I don't expect that. That's just not the side of a Marco Silva team, is it? So if we're competitive, I'm genuinely always pretty happy. And we have been so far this season, so no reason to think we wouldn't be.
Yeah, you've taken the words and the sentiments out of my mouth. I think no manager goes into... I certainly think Silva doesn't go into any of these games expecting to lose. He might be a bit cagey against the very, very best of them, but I believe he truly has the confidence that we can find ways to beat the top sides. But you're right in that I think it's the manner, it's the nature of the performance that we put in that fans care about. You're not going to believe this. You had to be watching the last pod to know that I've actually got a brace of cramps in my left calf now. Two pods running. But, there you go. Maybe that's the secret question that wins the prize you were thinking of before, Skibby.
Maybe, yeah.
But yeah, look, if we put in a really good performance and happen to get sort of tipped at the post, well, I don't think anyone's going to be absolutely bereft. Maybe a bit disappointed and think, well, imagine what could have been. But Arsenal is Arsenal at the moment. They're a very, very good side, and I don't think anyone would be distraught if they beat us.
Yeah, no, I think you're bang on. But no, I'm looking forward to it. So it's a Sunday kickoff. Can't wait for this one. Back to the cottage, which feels like I was only there yesterday, which I was. But no, it'd be nice to be there on a Sunday afternoon. Hopefully, putting in a decent performance. I think that's all we can ask for against a very, very good Arsenal side. But guys, going to call it there. I think it's been a really good episode today. So all I can say is, Elton, thank you very much for joining us.
Oh, thanks very much. I'm going to hit the medics
Beers?
for some salt because clearly I'm cramping up. It's been a long day.
Salt with your tequila on a Friday night. That's what I think. Dave, thank you very much for joining us as always.
Yeah, thanks, Gibby. And hopefully I'm wrong and we do the business on Sunday and keep this form going.
That's it. And if anyone sees Dave around the cottage and wants to boo him, feel free, because we don't like pessimism on That's So Craven. Guys, thank you very much. And thank you all for joining in the chat. It's been a really good and interactive episode. But so hopefully you will join us for our next episode, being the review of the Arsenal game. But yeah, thank you very much for joining us. Let's go Fulham. Come on, you Whites.